Hey y'all, welcome to Freedom Makers. I'm Amanda, and today we have been picking up hickory nuts again. This is what we have picked all the way from down there to up here. All of this we just picked a few minutes ago, me and Sunshine. And I spread them out on the top of this. This is just from the back of a truck, the bed cover or whatever. And it's the perfect size to use as a tabletop here at the end. So I spread out my nuts when we finish, and we do this process about every other day or so. And that's about how many we gather every other day. So it's a significant amount. These are the nuts that were sitting there for 2 days, and I've pulled the hulls off and put them here. So that's probably a good two gallons or so in this bucket, this 3-gallon bucket. So we'll take these in the house in a few minutes, and I'll show you how we crack them. Most of them you'll see do have crack marks in them. See? But usually that's still fine. I've picked these off the tree directly and they don't have these, so I'm thinking these cracks are from impact, from hitting the ground. They're fine. We don't leave them long enough to get moldy or anything. Every once in a while we'll crack one open and find mold or, you know, one that's dried out and yucky. But usually it's been sitting there a while and we just kind of found it. So normally they're fine. And I like to dry them in the sun because it makes it easier to pop these off sometimes. So I take off what I can before we let them dry, and then the rest pop off later. And I do discard any with a hole in them. There's no point in keeping these. The worms have gotten to them and they're yucky. But I will also say, a lot of times you'll find holes like this where you'll see a mark on the outside, but it didn't come all the way through. And you can see where it came up the side there. And a lot of these have holes in the sides, but they never went in through the shell of the nut itself. So the nuts were still fine, but the shell has some damage. So don't let that discourage you if you see a lot of this, because most of these do have holes in the husk. But in the shell itself, there weren't any problems. So these are good, and we're going to take these in the house and get to work on cracking them. Alright y'all, this is the Magic Maker. This is how I crack my hickory nuts. A lot of people drive over them with their cars and hit them with hammers, and I just don't think that's very effective because it pulverizes everything. Now this does leave at least a little bit intact. I'm not looking for pretty nuts. I just want to be able to eat them. So we can use these in pies or oatmeal or whatever all year. I just want to be able to pick out the meat there. We're cool with the pieces. A lot of people, I think, are attempting to get pretty and nice big pieces like you would with pecans. Pecans have a much thinner shell. This is very thick, and it's going to be impossible really to achieve that, especially at home. So for these hickory nuts, we just use this clamp and I let them drop into this bowl. Now you need a bowl or something below it if you're going to do this method, because some pieces will fall out of the bottom of the clamp and you'll have a big mess if you don't use a bowl. So I just used an old yucky bowl that doesn't, you know, it's already stained. It's all good. And I have it sitting on this stool here. And then there's a stool here that I can sit on while I'm working. This clamp is really easy to operate. I just, see, open it. And then I close it when I need to crack. And I have it clamped to my table. I've got a paper towel under here so it doesn't scratch the surface of my counter or anything like that. And then I've got an extra bowl here, you know, because that's quite a bit of nuts. It's going to fill this bowl up. Now I try to do this every other day or so and get these out of here. Nuts have a high oil content, so I don't recommend putting those in mason jars. I recommend freezing them for long-term storage because the oil can go rancid and then you're going to ruin and lose all of your nuts. So if you have a freezer, that's how I would do it. Okay guys, I wanted to show this one to you. Also, if you put the pointy end, this pointy end, like that one's just kind of more blunt, the really pointy end up when you clamp them, it'll open from that side, and you can kind of, I don't know if y'all can see it really well on camera. I don't think it's focusing. You can kind of see in there, and I can tell it's dried out, so we aren't going to want that one. So I know to just go ahead and throw it away. Also, if there's a worm in it, you'll be able to tell pretty immediately by pointing that side up. If you have them in there sideways like this or whatever, you're not going to be able to tell as easily. So I like to put the pointy part up, and then you see like that crack would open up and I'd be able to see if it's any good or not. And then I can know that before I let it drop down into my bucket below and get into my good ones. So, easy way to tell. And you can see there's not a huge amount of nut meat in these, but it's plenty enough to be worth it to our family. Nuts are expensive and we tend to eat a lot of them, so every little bit helps. And like I said, I'm getting about 2 gallons of whole nuts every 2 days. So that's a significant amount. I do use these. We kind of, there's plenty of these, you know, in this set. So we do use these to pick out the meat from the shell. I only have one hand right now, I'd show you. So we can use this to pick it out, and it works really well. So if you have a pecan nut cracking set like this, this will work fine for your hickory nuts. Also, some of these hulls do not come off. This one I could not get to come off at all. So it's off enough that I can just stick it in here and it's not going to hamper anything. You know, you just throw it away like you would the shell and it should still crack when you put it in there. So I also wanted to mention, I have seen hickory nut crackers online that were up to like 120 bucks. The low ball was like 45 or 50, and the reviews were not great. Some people said it worked, some people said it didn't. So if you have access to a clamp, even if you have to borrow one, this is the way to go. So I hope that this helps you guys out in your hickory nut adventures this autumn. We will talk to you guys later. Thanks for stopping by. God bless.